Live now. Nice. All right. Happy days. Good morning, good evening. Let's get an emoji in the chat for how you feel about crypto and this love and hate, seemingly one-way relationship where the crypto just takes everything, leaves you with nothing, nothing but despair and misery. Ah. Good morning. Still all good. Still all good. Okay. All right. So something slightly different today then. Maurizio, we're about to put you on the spot and put you in the hot seat. So I hope you've
Thank
woken
you.
up and you've had plenty of coffee because yeah, you won't have seen this one coming. I've
Not
been
really.
doing a bit of
I'm
research
nervous
at the
now, man.
weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
So what that means is that I've come up with a whole bunch of questions that I don't have answers for.
I
And
hope I have answers. If I don't, I don't. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is.
yeah, I mean, some of these questions that I've come up with, it's like I'm so far from understanding what the question is that I'm actually asking that it's like my question might not even be a valid question. So
mm.
we'll kind of start there. So I'm going to dump all the questions in the chat and then read them
That,
out once and then
that's a good thing from Jason. Like, yeah, we should try ChatGPT. I think he's smarter than me, man.
well, you know what, right? It's like um most people who've been here long enough aware that I like to play poker, right?
Yeah.
And when I go to ChatGPT and I ask it questions about poker, it makes the most fundamental mistakes that it's
hmm
like,
hmm
how can you get wrong a flush over a straight? Like this is the base level information. So I just find ChatGPT untrustworthy, especially
Definitely.
if you don't know what you're doing.
You definitely on the money there because obviously, um, it's useful to understand basic concepts and things like that, but then obviously, trying to make sense of a lot of different things, it could be handy,
Mhm.
but we'll see how we can actually uh
What we
tackle
can
these
do.
questions. All right, let's have a look.
Right. I'll just read through them then. Everybody in the
Yep.
chat, feel free to fire anything in about whether you agree, disagree, or whatever you think. And then when we interrogate Maurizio, we'll have a look at the comments. So, the first thing then, last week, it didn't feel anything special, did it? But we did make new all-time highs last week. And I
Mm.
believe that is a fucking significant event. Mostly
Mm-hmm.
because I believe that that means that we haven't local topped, which is
Mm-hmm.
where I put the significance on that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
BTC dominance is still dropping. It's around 59%, which leads us to ETH. ETH is
Mm-hmm.
decoupling, ETH BTC, ETH dominance. You look at that, ETH is really starting to break away now. It's in the news. It seems to be the kind of hot girl on campus, which goes in with the next kind of question of I know that people are getting frustrated that things aren't just wee and kind of off to the
Mm-hmm.
moon, but Scott's emails seem to put forward the idea that you really want this to be a creeping feeling of it building up,
Mm.
rather than a sort of jump scare in a horror movie. So we'll get your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts on that one, Maurizio. All right,
Mm-hmm.
there's two questions now, Maurizio, where I'm just making these up. I've got no
Yeah.
basis, right? So the first one is we always use M3 as a pure metric. Here's M3, here's liquidity, right? Well,
Give me for people that don't know what's M3 and what's your definition of it.
that's a fucking good question. So M3 is
That
a measurement of global liquidity, and that's it. You see, I can't even correctly state what it is.
that and that's why I ask,
Yeah.
because that's why I ask because there is a lot of interpretation of it, so we need to define that first. You know what I mean? Like before you
Yeah.
actually go and look at whatever indicator, data, whatever. You need to define it. And what does that mean for what the market that you're looking at? You know what I mean? Like, does it mean
Mm.
something? Does historical has different sort of patterns that we can actually be look for a repeatable historical moves, things like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and something that I tend to ask myself as well is that actually going to happen the same way? So M3 is global liquidity, right? In a nutshell. But mate, global liquidity is so overrated in a way because global liquidity changes across printing money, across what the economy is doing, across interest rates, across wars, right? You know what I mean? Like across like there's so many factors that it could affect it in terms of petrol or oil prices, things like that. You know what I mean? In terms of like so it's really tough to gauge it from that perspective. So it is a metric,
Mhm.
but in my view, it's really hard to gauge it unless we define it well. You know what I mean?
Right, there's a very valuable lesson in what you've just said then. Because the second half of my question was
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's too much noise in that M3, and is there a way that we could just look at, say, central bank liquidity? And would the quality of that signal, and I suppose now we just step into that world of hypothesis, don't we? Well,
Exactly.
if you
Yeah.
think that, Ian, piss off, get the charts open, and
Mm-hmm.
start looking to see if there is something, fall into the world of seeing patterns you want to see, and then come back and I'll shout at you like Scott would. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because and going back to anything, indicators or is this going to track this time?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this time is going to be an out season? So we need to find the data that supports that, or find the data that is against this. Like if we, and that's what I've been doing. Like this morning and for the past week is, things that I question my things that I do question every day is like, are we topping up? As simple as that. Like that's the question that we need to ask ourselves, right? Are we at the top? Is this over? You know what I mean? Like, because what happens at all-time highs? There's two things or three things that it could happen, right? One, like if you put it in layman terms, one is like all-time highs, price discovery, everybody's excited and everybody buys and buys and buys, and that goes to the moon. Whatever price, you know, that thing will get. That's option one, right? Which is the unlikely version of it. Like that's the one that I want to avoid unless I have sufficient data. Two is ranging, right? Like price consolidation, because price gets to an all-time high, and then people sell, people buy, people think it's a good price, people think it's a bad price, people think this thing is going to the moon, people think it's going to the floor. Bitcoin is gonna, you know what I mean? That's what consolidation means, which usually is a range. You know, we've seen it several times. And number three is we're fucked. As simple as that, right? Like everything is going down, everybody's selling. So we need to find which one is the more likelihood to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I've been searching for last week and this morning. And I do have some data to support some thesis.
Sure.
And with that being said, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I like to think about things in terms of because that's what it is in terms of crypto. Are we are we at the top, or
Mm.
are we just starting this thing, man? And if we are, then we are in a very good place to keep buying, going leverage crazy and things like that. Or if we topped, then will be a good idea to start selling and start shorting the shit out of everything. As simple as that. You know what I mean? Like that could be the two different pieces that we can play out, right? So I just want you like let's ask people here. What do you guys where we at in terms of those three? Um, in terms of those three sort of theses, are we at the beginning of the run, bull run, all season, whatever you want to call it, or are we ranging, or is this the top? What do you guys think?
I see some other poker players in the
All right.
pulling all-nighters.
It's room to room. Okay. All right. It's about to start. Okay. All right. All right. So we have very optimistic view. Okay. A very optimistic view of where everything is at. Like, so, and for those ones that actually reply ranging, do you guys think that we're gonna range and resolve to the upside or to the downside when the range is over? Because that's the other question. After we range, then it's a result. You know, the market will resolve to either direction. Okay. Uh, so we are pretty much biased towards the upside. Good. All right. So I think that's another thing as well, because we all been sort of trading this thing, waiting for that to happen. You know what I mean? We also biased, right? Because we're waiting for it. You know what I mean? So it's really it's hard, man. Like 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 that's why I can't sleep at night. You know, because
Mm.
think about it from the perspective, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. And so every time that you wait, then the market moves in the direction that you want, and then you think that that's the day that this is going to go to the fucking moon.
Yeah, yeah.
All
This
right,
feels
is
very much like you're having your balls tickled, just getting you know the main event is coming, but you're in the tickling phase.
exactly. So it's tough, man. So one thing that obviously you know I'm gonna get stopped out on trades, things like that. I always sort of uh that's kind of the safest thing. You can re-enter if you see that the market actually is going your way. But yeah, just have that in the back of your head, right? Because if you're in this call, it's because you want crypto to go crazy. You're not in this call because you want to short the market, or you know, like just by the responses that you guys are giving, you know what I mean? Like we all bias to the upside. So
Yes.
we all bias to the upside. I crypto is biased to the upside. That's kind of why, you know what I
Mm.
mean? Because obviously, you know, that's how historical has been. Like you buy $100 and you become a millionaire, right? In one of these crypto fucking altcoins or whatever, shit coins. So from mindset perspective, let's keep it in the back of our heads. And and I tend to do it pretty much every time. Like, is this the time? Is this real? You know what I mean? So
These
yeah.
interesting thoughts, man. It's like just to use another poker analogy, you get dealt a pair of aces. Most people new to the game, they see that and that's it, they've won. They do not accept or acknowledge that there is a percentage chance that that hand can lose in really any given situation in the game.
Mm-hmm.
A professional player is somebody that when the game of poker turns against them, this is Texas Hold'em I'm talking about, be it on the flop, the turn, or the river, they can fold and let go those pair of aces. Whereas a new player, they get dealt them and they're like, I've got aces. That means I've won. There is categorically no way I can lose. And then they make foolish bets that fly in the face of logic, and then they lose, and then they've got this story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, you wouldn't believe the bad luck I had. Whereas somebody, i.e., a poker coach, that looked at the situation, well, there was a clue here, a clue here, a clue here, and a clue here. And it is the same with the crypto market, because I'm biased as fuck. I'm just a perma bull, if you know what I mean. That's just up, up. That's all I want. Go up. I don't
And
want anything else.
you know why as well? Because if you do hold assets, it makes your bias, like if you already bought, right? If you're neutral, I think you might have the capacity to say, okay, I'm neutral. Is this gonna go up or is it gonna go down? I can act both ways. But if you already have a portfolio, right? Or
Mhm.
you already bought, or you have positions, or things like that, then you bias towards your position. You know what I mean? You bias towards your portfolio. You bias towards whatever asset you have. You know, so it's very hard to see the reality when it comes to trading because you're already biased. You know what I mean? Like it's really hard, man. Like trust me, you know that's why I
Hmm.
love short time trading. Because with short time trading, you usually are in a position for 1 day tops. You
Hmm.
make money or you lose money, but you don't. And then you come next day and if the market pump, then you try to position yourself and then try to make some money out of it, and then that's it. You know what I mean? Because obviously it could actually
Hmm.
drain your head, man. You
I'm
know,
with
so that's always in terms of always I ask myself every single day that question, man. Are we, is this over? All right. But yeah, in terms of that, so obviously, to answer your question, right, the M3 in terms, yeah, it's a metric, and is that gonna follow? So that's kind of stuff that we need to sort of go into historical moves. But I think we have stronger data. Stuff that I'm going to show you today, I think is a strong, um, is a is a better measure of the M3 or any liquidity, right? Kind of things. Okay. Let's go through the question. So this other one here says if ETF inflows are big and fast, why aren't we already higher in price? How can we interrogate the inflow data? All right, let's ask me that question again, and in your own words.
all we hear is positivity and billions of dollars flowing into ETFs. So how can we look at that data and not be like, well, fuck me, shouldn't this thing be going up quicker?
Mm-hmm.
I never hear anything negative about ETFs. All I hear is the fucking money is open, it's flowing, it's flowing. Okay, then
Mm-hmm.
why is it not? Why is the
All
market not
right.
pumping then?
Okay, interesting. Because even though there is a lot of inflows on any ETFs, that's a spot buying, right?
Mhm.
There is a lot of leverage in the system of people shorting. Okay, so and also there is a lot of algorithm like things like INA, right? Like the INA uses their algorithm in order to short the market at certain stages in order to maintain stability in USDE, right? Pendle does the same thing as well in terms of some other algorithms that they do. Staking does the same thing. So there's a bunch of different mechanisms that because there's a lot of inflows, that doesn't mean that the price is going to go to the moon. However, whenever are inflows, that means that the asset is valued at a certain price.
Mhm.
Okay. So at some point, there could be that potential of that's why people are buying. That's why the ETF inflows is important to gauge, right? Because otherwise institutional money will not flow into the inflows, right? And they're waiting to see that the asset will appreciate in value at certain time. When? We don't know. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. And that's the thing with crypto, right? And because now we have more institutional inflows, now the assets are becoming a little bit more stable, right? Like Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, even though it's volatile, it's maintaining its range, not like years before that it went to all-time highs and then dropped 20%, 25%, right? So that's how I like to see it in terms of ETF inflows, right? A gauge, but then have in mind the ETF inflows are lagging. Okay, so the data that I always show every single day is lagging. It's not the real thing of what's happening in the market. You could have a very positive inflow yesterday, and then throughout the day, you're gonna have like something happen, and then institutional money starts selling. Then next day you're gonna see a huge outflow, right, of
Mhm.
ETFs, and then the market is already like you're already pricing that drop. You know what I mean? Like, so obviously, I like to see it as a supportive evidence, but unless you have real time data of the ETFs, then there's no value. It's value, but it's not real value to make huge decisions. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what I see.
So it's like we can see it as this great big stability bringing type of wedge. But if we
Exactly.
want to drill down on it and get more and more and more specific, we'd have to have a specific purpose and then look for real-time data. Okay, cool. So we can just use it as a massive piece of confluence that we're in a maturing market, the Bitcoin market. So
Mm,
in a mature market, the extremities start to slow down a bit, don't they? Like we don't get as big a pullbacks. So part of that maturity is this inflow of new cash. Speaking of inflow of new cash, this is a slight sidetrack. Obviously, Trump unlocked the pensions, which was
mm-hmm,
like 12 trillion. But I
mm-hmm.
suppose obviously there has to be a delay from him saying, okay, we can now have this market open to that market actually opening and people buying, because that seems like, is that the thing when that actually happens? Is that the thing that could take us into a kind of third price discovery uptrend with Bitcoin for that kind of final parabolic rally, which is normally associated with the money printers are on, central bank liquidity?
Correct. So that could be a factor, and that's one of the biggest factors that is played out, that is playing out at the moment. They right now the laws in terms of crypto in the US will benefit a lot of the institutional inflows. Okay,
Mhm.
what that means is, these pensions, not because they can, they will. Think about it from that perspective. Okay, you have hedge fund managers, you have a lot of, so it's an expectation for, because we are in the crypto world and we, oh fuck, this is going, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean they have to.
Mm.
Okay, that doesn't mean they have to. They have the risks strategies, they have the way that they have, it now opens the door,
Hmm.
but you don't know if they will. More than likely they will, and I have a little bit of data to support that fact.
Fascinating.
But if you think it from that perspective, not because, like I say, we are biased. Having
Mhm.
every time that I and that's kind of what I learned in trading, is not being biased, which is really really hard not to be on, because when you have a skin in the game, you want to win, right? Like, imagine that if you're in a game and then you're playing, with your team, you want to win, so you're biased towards the win. You're not playing because you just, yeah, I want to have fun. More than likely that doesn't happen, usually. But thinking from that perspective, so any news that we see, oh, now everybody's going to jump in, that doesn't need to happen. Okay,
Do I need
we
to wash
expect.
my brain out with soap?
I need to get that. I need to start saying the same thing
Do I
that.
need to grow up?
Fair enough. But yeah, you know what I mean. That's kind of uh how I see it. You know what I mean. I could be completely wrong, but
Nice.
then if you think about it from the hedge fund perspective, or banks or whatever, now that they open to the possibility, are they going to start allocating money? More than likely. More than likely. I think it's going to be huge, it's going to be small, it's going to be a huge percent, less percent. More than likely, it's a risk asset. Therefore, percentage is going to be slow from the hedge fund perspective, but they're going to be inflows. But more than likely, they're going to be inflows. Okay, so yeah, that's my take on that question. Okay.
That is awesome, man. I think the final question on there, and then we can dive into all your stuff, was about the money flow. If we go
Yes.
into, let's say we go into an alt season now, then if that money flow returns to Bitcoin, then we get another leg up. But that money flow
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to return to Bitcoin. People could take their profits and go home. So it's a bit of a meandering question, that one, because
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a case of trying to keep, like, to achieve this neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
It's like trying to observe where the money is flowing, not where I want the money to flow. Like, I want the money to flow out of alts and back into Bitcoin for another rally and then another final blow off top, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. So
Exactly.
it seems like all the signs are things like the BTC dominance and the stuff like that, like the sort of big barometer hand is pointing more towards alt season than away from alt season. But then let's say we do have this alt season. Where does the money flow?
So that's why we have the sectors. I will go back into sectors. That's the main reason why I created that one, right? Because that's the best way to gauge. And something that we know about crypto is narratives, okay? And narratives are going to be a big thing. Which narrative is going to be the narrative that's going to catch on this call it cycle, term, cube, whatever you want to call it, but it's going to be a narrative. Why? Crypto is very marketing driven. So whatever is good marketing, people just put money in it. And when people put money in it, things tend to appreciate in price quite rapidly, right? So is the hype exactly? Thanks, Jason. Is the hype of whatever new, whatever makes you $1 million with $1 investment. You know what I mean? That's the nature of it. So
That's true.
I have a new narrative for you guys today. So, which it could play out, it could not. We'll see. But I keep finding new narratives. You know what I mean? Like back in a week, a month back was the launch coin thing. I'm still thinking that could play out. There's a bunch of new narratives coming out. I'm gonna show you one, and I'm sort of highlighting a few tokens that it could actually it's interesting from the thesis perspective, okay? But that's the whole point of the sector's performance. When you're actually seeing, you know, you put all the spaghetti charts together, but they don't move alike. So essentially, if you actually, go by sectors, you're gonna start seeing outperformance in each sector. And then when you start seeing those outperformance, usually the other coins will catch up because people will say, "Oh fuck, this is the narrative to be in RWAs or uh, I1s or DeFi." You know what I mean? So this is the best way to, in my view, it's just obviously hard to time it in a way. But then when the best way that I have found is looking for those outliers, and then you start looking for the betas. This is what we've been doing, and then more than likely we're gonna catch something up. You know what I mean? But or unless you start seeing some narratives playing out on Twitter, things like that before they get priced in, and then you capitalize on that. That's the best way to do it. Which one is it gonna be? Who knows? No
Who
one
knows?
knows.
No.
That's kind of my take. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to put any bias or anything. So that's why I'm on everything because I don't know which one's gonna play out. Right?
Mm.
So yeah.
I'm with you. Maybe one week we'll have to do a crypto Twitter bull market ballers club and show people some of the madness that you go through. So speaking of these sectors, right? Maurizio asked me to help
Yeah,
him with this job about a month ago, and I've still only done about 5% of it. So I'm publicly saying this week I'm going to work on this month-old job that he gave me. So everybody remembered I asked me if I completed the task or not
there you go. Now
next
now you're
week.
making it public.
Now I'm
So
on the
so
fucking
it's
hook
all
for
it's
it
all
after
your
a month of
responsibility,
doing
man.
fuck all. Yeah.
It's
All
just so
right.
many so much stuff, you know what I mean? So much stuff happening and new tokens launching and new stuff, new companies raising money. Uh but that's kind of the whole thing. But good questions, man. Really, really good questions. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to what you got to say. I'm going to go and get a glass of water and
All right. So let me start
quiet
sharing
for a
my
bit.
screen because I do want to share a few things with you guys. I think is it's a few things that do you guys see my screen?
We do, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So obviously, the first thing that we wanna focus on is this the top, is this the middle, are we ranging? And then if we are ranging, how we're going to resolve and which sectors are going to be hot. So the first thing that I want to show you is obviously we did talk about or Ian mentioned about Bitcoin, hitting all-time highs. Let's bring the chart up and me tell you where I am so far with this thing, man. This has been it's really interesting, but that doesn't mean it needs to go to the moon. You know what I mean? And this is where a lot of people get caught up, including me. When things break to the upside, we always expect price discovery. That doesn't have to happen. Okay, so it doesn't have to happen. But if it will, we need to find the liquidity somewhere. So what we found when we had all-time highs again, this is the second time that we have had all-time highs this year, right? That was on the 13. Yeah, that was on the 13. The next day actually had a huge sell-off. Okay. And I did talk about this gap again. This gap was created, another CME gap. And what do we know about gaps again? Usually these gaps get filled. Okay. So what I'm waiting for is for this gap, especially on the small time frames. And by the way, a gap fill, that means a wick down, right? You can have a 1 minute candle that goes down and then fills the gap, and then liquidity comes in, and then we can just go back up again and things like that. So obviously, it's kind of hard to gauge which time frame we're going to have, which time frame we're going to this gap is going to get filled. But I'm still tracking a possibility for this gap to be filled. That's why I haven't opened any new positions, things like that. By the way, we were stopped out on Bonk over the weekend. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm waiting for. So I want to see the price reaction around this area right here after we close the gap, if we do, right? If this week we start to sort of going up here, especially above the 119,000, right? And you guys know the drill right now in terms of and we start seeing where's my Bitcoin chart? And we start seeing CVD, which CVD spot is basically a measurement that is being inflows on spot buying, and this is kind of this data is actually more very important to track because spot driven events are usually the ones that actually make all-time highs usually. Okay, so also we do have the last sort of the conference, the Jackson Hole conference as well, and a lot of people are waiting to see if we're going to get rate cuts in the US and things like that. So that's probably why the market is a little bit boring. And just a couple of weeks ago, we just a couple of weeks to September. So obviously September could get a very interesting month if all the ducks align, right? So that's kind of the thing that I'm watching on Bitcoin. But I really want to show is, I've been gathering this data around, are we at the top, are we at the beginning, or are we ranging? So trying to solve that question is the first thing that I'm going to, you guys, you've seen these charts again and again and again, and this is the coin analyze futures, dominance by volume, and dominance by open interest. So essentially what we're looking for here, and you can actually make this on 2 years, 1 year, but this is the whole 2 years, right? That we have data on open interest. Now, what do we know about open interest? So obviously, open interest is the amount of contracts being open at a given time. That doesn't mean are longs or shorts, but what historical is what we've seen that open interest on alts, which is, let me just turn this off. By the way, Ethereum is the green one, Bitcoin is the blue one, and others is the orange one. So once the open interest of alts is sort of bigger or a little bit more than Bitcoin, that means it could be signs for tops, right? Like very close here, that was top of 2012. But however, gauging tops is very tough, man. Like it's very, 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 very tough. Okay. So this is the first indication that I'm seeing that we're not there yet. There is a lot of room. We just had a flush of liquidity over the weekend, last week, that a lot of people got liquidated, and still market is alive in a way. Like we're still in the same range. Bitcoin is still in the same range, Ethereum pretty much in the same range, and we did have a liquidation event. So look, we're still very bullish. Like structurally speaking, on daily higher time frames, we'd be definitely bullish, right? Solana, where is Solana? Solana, right here, right? We're still technically ready to break, right? Kind of, in a way. So that's kind of the first thesis that I'm in. I'm still bullish, right? Momentum is there, leverage reset, and we do have room to move. Now, another one that I found interesting is, I've been looking for this, finally found it. It's called blockworks.co. Let me share this in the chat because I think it's really interesting. I found this one last week. All right. And something that we were talking about for the past month is the amount of companies doing treasury buying, right? Like companies that instead of investing on real estate or things like that, they're just investing on assets. Okay. So this is different. This hasn't happened in crypto. This is the first time that this is happening in crypto. Why? Because we didn't have ETFs. The only thing that we do have history on is MicroStrategy, right? They've always been very public in their strategy in terms of their treasury strategy, and they did it with Bitcoin, and they were very successful with it. So I think a lot of companies now were replicating the model with different assets that they could think that it could appreciate in value. Okay, so this is very telling, right? Because this is the crypto treasury company trading volume. So you can actually see all the companies here buying assets. All right. So that's a different, this is definitely a different measurement of liquidity, right? So we were talking about, the M1, the M2, or whatever, money liquidity or things like that. But at the end of the day, you don't know if that liquidity is actually being driven into or being funneled into crypto, right? Into risk assets. But in my view, and I could be completely wrong, this could be a better sort of gauge. Why? Because they're real companies buying real assets, buying real spot, right? Buying ETFs or whatever. So you're going to start seeing what they're buying. Okay. So this is really telling. If a big company is doing this, so might as well how we can actually leverage this for our advantage. There is this chart here that's called the crypto treasury companies by asset. So let me just make this bigger, okay? So, all right, so obviously Bitcoin is being the most prominent one because obviously MicroStrategy started, then a few other companies started it. So obviously this is the big dog. However, this is since April when companies start buying these things, using the same strategy as MicroStrategy, right? So you're gonna start seeing Ethereum being the leader, right? Like it started with Solana, companies buying Solana, but after June, right, Ethereum started recovering, and now it's actually the second largest one. Okay, so this is why actually I went into Bonk, because I thought it was going to catch up, but it did not. Like Ethereum is actually now being, so companies keep still buying this thing, man. So that's actually very telling in terms of liquidity, right? And what we know is when companies will start selling this, right, is when probably going to start to actually top up, and start sort of getting profits. They might start getting profits. However, what do we know about Treasury holdings? What we know about Treasury holdings is that, MicroStrategy just buys. They never sell. What they do is they borrow against it, and that's type of the strategy. That's how they gain liquidity, getting against it. So it's very telling that these companies are actually, this is the main assets that they're actually holding. And so I shared that in the chat. This is really interesting. So I think this could be one of the interesting gauges that we need to pay attention to, right? Because this is the new way of big liquidity coming into these assets. And what do we know? If Ethereum goes up, then people like you, me, retail traders are going to go nuts, and we're going to start buying whatever Ethereum beta we can get our hands on, and that's how crypto is all about, right? The hype about that. But in essence, this is the real need of why I think we're not topping yet. Okay, so this is one. Another one that I want to show you is a friend of mine shared this report with me, which I'm going to put in the chat, right? And this is about the global fund manager. It's a global research in terms of security. It's very interesting if you want to read it. But this is one of the ones that I want to sort of highlight, and it's the largest pullback in the global in the global fund manager, sort of that in terms of cash, right? So we're not topping out yet. So we're sort of in a pullback period, and it looks pretty great in order to actually, funds look at this data and say, all right, I will still sort of have time to move, right? So I encourage you that you guys read this one. If you, and that's why it might not top yet, right? So obviously this is another one that I'm expecting. I do believe, and I do think that we still waiting for what happens after the meeting. I think I don't even had it here. 4 days. 4 days blockchain symposium. Okay, followed by the Jackson Hole symposium started on the Friday. Thank you, Todd. Yeah, so Friday the 22nd the symposium starts, so obviously let's see what happens there, and I think that's what people are waiting for. I could be completely wrong. Maybe liquidity will front run it, who knows? But then that's kind of what we're going to start tracking. Okay, so this is the main 3 things that I've been sort of searching for, and he has confident data that we still have room to go. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at in terms of that's kind of where I'm at with this with these ones. Okay, so with that being said, yeah, because we ran a little bit of time, I do want to share, because I've been doing a little bit of research in terms of what narratives, because you need to do all this research prior things go nuts. Okay, otherwise you're going to sort of catch the wave. And I want to highlight this, and this is very risk assets. A lot of these assets are not yet on exchanges, so call it like meme coins, stuff like that, the AI agents that happened last year. But I think they could be, I'll be adding more in these ones, but I'm kind of tracking the AI and robotics narrative. There is some crypto companies, uh, doing interesting things around robotics. And I think with the AI, so we have AI now, AI sort of narrative. Yeah, there's good projects on AI, but that was the next thing, right? So robotics could be the next one. Could be. I'm not saying it will, but I'm seeing some capital going into it, especially Codec. So if we have a Codec, it's an interesting project, and it just went bananas already. So it could be interesting. It could be quite interesting. And what you can see with these sort of new projects, new charts, is that people are not selling massively. So they're waiting for, I mean, this could be narratives that actually could latch on into new price discovery or really going nuts. So that's the one that stands the most. Brew as well, Nadix as well. But I'll be doing more research on this. But I just want to share with you. You can take a screenshot of this one if you guys want. And but yeah, still haven't bought anything. But this is very risky. Trade as meme coins. Trade as like new projects. You buy one and it could do well, or you could go to zero. So have that in mind as well in terms of these new narratives and things like that. But these are pretty interesting in my mind. So yeah, so that's kind of let me get a screenshot and just put it in here. Oh, I cannot paste this screenshot. Anyway, you can go back to the real replay. Definitely, it's going to be a replay. You take a screenshot and
We'll send it to me
start
to
tracking
Slack,
this one.
Maurizio, and I'll
All right, fair
get it
enough.
posted on the call recorded.
Beautiful. All right. So yeah, that's kind of in essence, things that I'm tracking closely. So now I'm going back in terms of what does it mean and how we can start getting positioned. So in terms of the leverage positions that we hold are actually we're doing well in terms of especially, well, unfortunately, we got stopped out on bunk. Let me just show you. Yeah, over the weekend. Yeah, we got stopped out. I still like it. I just want to see a little bit. I don't want to go in now because I want to see what happens this week. But I'm just doing the same list. Things that I'm definitely thinking of adding more is Aero. So Aero performance has been really, really great, and we're doing really well with this trade. But definitely, I want to add more on this one. And why Aero? So Aero is kind of the gateway for the base ecosystem, and now we're gonna start seeing a lot of different traction on chain and DeFi and all the sort of stuff. So I think this one will benefit at least to all-time highs, at least. So adding more, I think will be very well positioned. This one, I don't know. I still like Ina. This trade is doing great, but I don't want to add more until I see a little bit more strength on this range, at least towards the upper of this range. Definitely those are the ones that I want to add more. I want to talk about Mantle. I've been talking about Mantle for a while, and unfortunately you didn't get in. Over the weekend this thing went nuts. So Mantle looks pretty good for the new all-time highs. Okay, so I've been doing a little bit more research on Mantle, and where are you? Right here. You can go. By the way, you go DeFi Llama, and you can actually start doing the analytics of whatever chain you want. The interesting on this one is we're seeing some TVL. The TVL keeps rising, right? That's actually quite handy. This is a chain that probably there's a lot of speculation around Bybit using Mantle as you paying for fees and things like that. So if that's the case, more than likely Mantle will go a little bit nuts. Okay, Bybit is one of the biggest exchanges there with a lot of liquidity, so this one could appreciate in value quite high. Could go to price discovery. To what price? Who knows? This could be like the BNB of buy bid on that perspective or things like that. So paying a lot of attention to this one. Yeah, I did talk about it extensively last week. And they broke this level here. Obviously, they didn't go in, but I'm looking for perhaps start buying this on spot, right? Don't know about leverage. It could retrace, especially we do have if we don't have rates cut on September, more than likely people will say, all right, probably risk will not be as big. Who knows, right? I'm just speculating here, but I'm tracking this one closely. But on the back of Mantle, I did talk about Cook. Where are you? Cook, it is pretty interesting because it's now like it's kind of the same beta as Mantle. So if Mantle and by the way, this Cook runs on Mantle, and this is the staked governance token for Mantle ETH, right? EMI, meth. I don't know, man. I don't know these names. Anyway, so listing price, right, was about 30. Yeah, 30 cent, the 30. So we do have a good risk reward sort of trade on this one. However, this is very low cap, so be mindful that it could be so doing leverage in this one could be hard, but then I'm really liking this one. So I think those are the standouts of the weekend, especially like if we go here on the spaghetti charts and start seeing what happened in the last couple of days, whenever like Bitcoin sort of range, everything, Mantle, Link. Link is doing great, by the way. Vera, I don't know, S is coming back. So it's a lot of things coming back. So I can start seeing some momentum coming in. So far, in essence, market looks pretty good, man. Like markets looks pretty good. Obviously, timing the leverage thing will be a little bit tricky, but let's see how the market decides to do this week, kind of. But everything looks so far so good, man. So that's kind of what I have at the moment.
That is absolutely amazing. What a fantastic session today. And looking forward to your update later on
Right.
later on in the day, man.
Beautiful. All right.
Be fun. Oh,
All right, guys. Have a good one. So yeah, in terms of pullbacks and things like that, definitely throughout the week, we'll see if there's any good pullbacks to get back into some good assets. But yeah, we'll keep you updated on that.
nice. Ta-da.
All right, guys.